Hi and welcome to another episode of the Getting Things Done podcast from Vital Learning. I am here as always with my good friend and colleague Lars Hendriksen, and I am Morten Privit Lars.
Shaking things up. Brilliant,
Yes.
Morten. Good to see you as always, and as always, good to be with our listeners and viewers out there. I will not shake things up. I will start the way I always do, which is to remind you of the purpose of the podcast, which is to help you learn GTD or become even better GTDers. We hope that today's episode supports you in that. If you're new to GTD, we always recommend you go back and listen to episodes 1 through 6, the audio version of the podcast, to get an introduction to the basics of GTD, the 5 steps. And today's episode number is number 138 of the podcast. And today's episode is titled Becoming a Little Better at GTD Every Day. And it's part of your series, right, Morten?
Yes, it's what did I learn in doing GTD for 20 years? And I think that we will go back to actually on the YouTube just saying 20 years because I said 38 and we say 20, so now let's go back to the the real thing, because we have a shared experience of 38 years, but since this is my learnings, then I think 20 is okay. So and this has become or have been a pet peeve of mine for a long time, specifically or especially after I started coaching people, because you have a tendency as a GTD practitioner to want everything immediately. At least I did. I want to get really good at getting things done, the whole thing. I want to have the whole 9 yards and then some. I want to have the horizons of focus. I want to have the natural planning model. I want to have the 5 steps of GTD, and I want everything, and I want it now, which is probably not the best way of doing it. At least that's my experience. Let's take a step back, Lars. When you started learning getting things done, how did you try everything at once, or how did you learn?
Yeah, I think to some extent that was part of the same experience for me. But I think I did start off slowly at first, and then I sort of like you just described, wanted it all, and then sort of scaled back, and then spent the next 18 years still counting, refining what is working and what isn't as life evolves. My story that I sometimes share when we deliver trainings or speeches was to just focus on the capture step based on having listened through the GTD Live. I think was the one that I found originally, the audio version, the 9 CDs or whatever it was back then. But having that in there and just becoming better at writing things down, I think that was really a key for me, because I had the exact opposite approach of trying to keep everything in my head. So that was at least the first change that I can remember. But pretty quickly after that, running through the book, picking up as much as I could, and applying that to the email inbox and beyond. So I think pretty quickly it came from maybe I'll start taking some notes in meetings to remember the milk was the one back then, and I put a lot of stuff in to remember there was a lot more remembering than just milk. I filled that up pretty quickly, and the rest is history, scaling it back and forth and adjusting to optimize it for myself.
Yes, and I think I did the same thing, is because when you get, at least I remember when I started learning, I started emptying my head, started writing everything down, and I get a really good feeling for that. And it's like, oh, this sounds like this. I want this. I want to have this as my default MO, my modus operandi. I want this freedom feeling all the time, so that I can kind of or went a little overboard trying to implement everything at the same time, which is probably not the best. So my learning here is that becoming a little better every day is the key. And to do this, you need to build what I call small sustainable habits that you do consistently and every day until they kind of stick with you. You don't have to be super proficient in it, but it has to, become something that you don't have to think about that you need to do, but you will do them. So the first thing that I remember I got stuck with fairly easy, probably because I'm a high associative person, was the capture, and just writing everything down. How did you start with capture, Lars? You mentioned it briefly, writing things down, but yeah. So that's where you started as well.
Yeah, that was definitely it. And a mix of tools, if we want to share that as well, because some things, a lot of stuff was emails coming in back then for me. So that was kind of the big challenge back then, which it still is for many people. But I did mix in some paper, if I remember correctly, and also remember the milk, or my OneNote system. As OneNote tends to do, it really just sucks it all in, and you can throw everything in there. So Capture was certainly a great place to start.
Yeah, and the best practice of capture is to try and find one tool that will be your landing place for everything. And there are many different ways of doing that. Just to give people that, if you are new to GTD and want to get started, you should have one place or as few places as possible to capture in. And one of the things that I would recommend you to look at would be to find an app that will work for you. You can also, of course, do it on paper if you are not a digital person. You prefer, doing it on paper. That's fine. But Lars and I love paper for different reasons, but we do love paper. And and Lars has even been hunted into the fountain pen mafia.
Fountain pen mafia, exactly. It's been a while since we gave them a shout out. Yeah, no, I still have my Rhodia pad here on the table in front of me, so still right at hand.
Okay, so I'm more like pencil and paper, so that's more me. I've not been sucked into that yet, so. They try, but I'm resisting. Sorry, this is very inside baseball, but for those of you who don't know, this is the Fountain Pen Mafia. Is a select group of GTDers that are residing in the
South Denmark.
South of Denmark, which is probably like Germany and the Netherlands and such. They are very into fountain pens, and they are part of the GTD community here in the Nordic region, specifically the summer camp. So and other meeting places as well. So the retreat is also a way to meet them. But those are the fountain pens. But now let's get back to topic, which is capture. And capture is, the habit, the keystone is all starts there. The keystone habits is get it out of your head. If you can write it down someplace where you will see it later, your brain will be able to let go of it, and you can then clarify and organize it into your system later. But it has to be one place preferably. And I use, I'm an app in the Apple iOS system, so I use Apple Reminders. Other people use Microsoft To Do. We have Todoist. There is a plethora of very good and diverse apps that will do that for you or help you with that. But also understand that there is give a shout out to the Brain Toss app. Brain Toss, one word, in both the App Store and in Google Play, I guess. Has got a revamp now, and I tried it out. It works. It's a way to dictate into your phone, and it transcribes it and put it into your email inbox. You can also take photos and scribble notes and whatever tickets you fancy, as long as it goes in one place. That's the idea. So do you have any other tips and tricks, Lars, on where to do this?
Yeah, you should build your own. Get your AI out, get your Claude out, get your something else. Build your own. No, sorry. I've mentioned before that I used to be a big brain toss fan, but it failed for me a couple of times. So I lost the trust in it, which is of course a key component in
Yeah.
making sure that this actually works. If you capture things but do not trust them, then they stay in your head. So that's why for me I have used different capture tools. But that's just me. I know for most people that that brain toss has worked rather well.
It has for a lot of people, and I'm not using it myself because the capture capabilities in iOS in the Apple reminders are so good. I use Siri all the time to remind me or capture with. But for anyone else, just give you some options, and that is to build that every day. Then what should you capture? Well, anything that has your attention that you might want to do something about. Or that you will do something about, or something you worry about. I tend to lump them into three categories, but you don't have to divide them into three categories, just to identify them. And but to do that over time, to create a sustainable habit, you have to feel good about this. And the problem is, if you do not clarify after, you will resist capturing, because your brain will not accept you put any more ideas or things inside your system, because you're not handling it. So it moves back into your head if you don't do that. So what would you recommend someone to do to build a sustainable habit, Lars, when it comes to clarify? How would you recommend somebody doing that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think I would probably take a step back and, look at the different aspects of GTD that we normally talk about when we look at, how do we spot when things are off? And one place too that we more frequently talk about it, for example, is the weekly review. So how do we then get into that habit of doing them, and then when you get towards the other side of things, what does it then feel like when you don't do it, right? So getting that to reestablishing those standards, I think that's probably the more common one that people will be familiar with. I think for me, just it depends on where you are in your GTD practice, and that's probably why I'm a bit hesitant to respond directly to your question, because there will be different phases in your GTD life when as you're just starting out versus you are now an experienced GTDer. But one of the things that I was reminded of when speaking of emptying inboxes, different coaching clients that have had different challenges, and one of the things that we focused on then, and that we also talk about in the level 3 training, is how you identify what you identify as in the sense of identifying as a GTDer, someone who's in control, someone who's got their stuff together. The fountain pen is on the table, ready for you to use. You've got your tools laid out. Everything is all good. No, but and it can be simple things, right? So as we were talking about this in the pre-show, I was reminded of one coaching client where we cleaned up the one of the cupboards that she had in her office. And that simple act of just, because that has been the cupboard where you just threw stuff in there, all the, what do you call the phones? I don't remember the names now that you plug into your computer when you have people in your office and you need a shared speaker and microphone. So you plug that in, the turtles or whatever we used to call them. All the old tech that you used to use, well, it was all thrown in there. And we just, spent 30 minutes cleaning that up and just walking past that every morning, and she knew that it was there and it was clean, and it was just sort of supporting and reinforcing her in that sense of being a different person than she was pre-GTD. There was a pre-GTD and a post-GTD. And for many people, it could just be, changing that setting in your Outlook to open in your calendar instead of your email. Just those, small reminders, small triggers can really make a difference.
It can, absolutely. One of the things that I've been noting down as something that I would like to discuss with you when it comes to this, as becoming a little better every day, is a a quote that I like, and some people disagree with me. But if you look at it, it's from a learning perspective. I think it is a good one. It's if you stop wanting to become better, you soon stop being good at anything. So if you don't want to be better, you're stagnant. Complacency is the enemy of progress. So the idea here is that you need to evolve or disappear. I don't know, but I think that is if you don't grow, then you are stagnant. And if you want to learn getting things done, you can't be stagnant. You have to learn little by little. That's the idea of this episode, at least. And creating sustainable habits, small sustainable habits that enforces you to your learning. And I use what I call visual reminders. Some kind of like put it in front of the door, as David says. And I do believe that I wouldn't call it, you don't need to physically have it in front of the door, but when I learned, I taught myself or I read the book and I repeated until I kind of like mastered the workflow of getting things done. I'm showing on the video for those who are on video now. It's the workflow map, and this is the workflow clarifying map, and it is a physical thing that I had as a physical reminder, and I put it in between the keyboard and the monitor of my laptop, so it was always with me. When I went outside, I put it in there and I opened it. The first thing I saw was this thing saying GTD, and I kind of like, oh yeah, that GTD thing. I wanted to get good at that. I remember that. I had hope in that. So okay, thank you for the reminder, Morten. The idea is that then I help me becoming better at something I think I should be better at. So as a physical reminder, I used. Another reminder that I used and I still use is to create a morning routine. It's not in my calendar anymore, but it was for many years when I said that, create a calendar reminder first 30 minutes when I get into the office. What do? I open my calendar first to get the hard landscape, then the lists next to see what can flow in the openings that I have in my calendar. And then I clarify and organize all the emails and all the inputs that came since the day before. And that is a very good routine that helped me. It wasn't physical, but it was in my calendar. Like I physically saw that every day. Do you have any tricks like that, Lars, that you've seen work?
I think, that was one of the more popular episodes as well that we spoke about a while back. I don't remember the number, but, the daily checklist, that kind of thing. And that's absolutely been a help for me as well. I've built a custom workflow for me. So it has, it's called a sunrise workflow, where it walks through, I think, 6-7 different steps that I want to go through every morning, like a brief mind sweep and, the calendar and getting some fresh coffee, opening the windows, really, even if it's zombie Lars that woke up after a bad night of sleep, I can still get through that and get a good start to the day and have a good idea of what I want to get done on that given day. So, that's certainly a helpful approach to start the day.
Yes. Another routine that I created that became a habit was to have a before I leave work calendar reminder. So that I had a checklist kind of like taking me out of the office, like sit down. I did a mind sweep. I did the last clarify and organize before I went home. And I looked at the day after calendar just to get a glance at the week that came, just what is coming now. Just make sure I didn't forget something so that when I went home, I can be more relaxed. And that helped me over time to build a habit. And now I don't need that. I wouldn't call it crutch, but it is a tool, the calendar reminders. It is putting it in front of the door that you will, so that you will remember it. And it becomes part of your system until the idea is that when everything that's on track, you don't have to repeat. But you have to repeat it until it's on track. And that's the idea. Yeah. But it becomes a habit.
Yeah, I know that one, and we do talk about it sometimes. Also in trainings when we talk about blocking time for emptying inboxes or any other things that you want to make sure you get done in specific time frames. And I know that some people benefit from that sort of debrief at the end of the day. It's not something that I have practiced much myself, other than, as you mentioned it, I think some of the like a weekly review stuff. When I used to work as an IT consultant, I would, print my lists way back in the day and just sit there and run through, perhaps looking like a crazy guy on the train, but I would have all my list in there and run through and check things off and capture new things. And it was really, that was so not a daily decompress or debrief, but really more the weekly review style, which that absolutely helped me, of course.
No, and the one thing that I would add to this is that you don't have to start with weekly review straight off. But it is really the glue that keeps everything together when you start clarify and organize through the week, and you don't want to get stressed when more than necessary. It is a habit that you have to establish, and the idea that should also go in the calendar, and then you should take yourself seriously, saying that, well, I need this time to catch up and make sure that I'm on the mark, I'm doing the right things, my ducks in a row. I feel confident that nothing will attack me in the alley of weekend. The last thing I would like to add into this mix in this episode of becoming a little better at GTD every day is that to do this, one of the things that I've seen with me, but also with my coaching clients, that it is a good idea to dive into GTD, what I call swim in it, and talk about it, discuss it, read all the books, listen to all the podcasts, see videos, kind of like swim in getting things done. And that helps because then you get a little focused. If you get a little nerdy, which is never bad to be nerdy about something, at least not in my book, because it helps you learn, helps you focus, helps you make, if you think getting things done is good for you and that you will like to get good at it, then it will not come by itself. And whatever you can do to motivate yourself, make it 6 months deep dive into getting things done, saying that I will read everything I can get that's certified. I highly recommend make sure you're picking your sources. So make sure that if you use AI, to make sure that it is not hallucinating or making things up, because I've seen that unfortunately with the different AIs that I've looked at, and looked at certified sources. So the David Allen Company's videos and the podcasts are a good source. Lars and me is not bad as a source. But one of the things that I found that to create a sustainable habit over time is to nerd with it, but also, and this is my last point for this, is stay accountable, because learning over time is one of the things I found to be the best way of learning anything. So give yourself time to learn this, and we say this all the time. It will take you a year, maybe 2, to get really good at this. And then the rest is what you call refining that. And the second point is stay accountable to someone about this. So there are different places where you can become accountable. You can, if you attend one of the summer camps, we recommend people to become weekly review buddies or be GTD partners, so that you stay accountable with each other's. You can find a friend or a boss or someone who is willing to ask you, well, how are you doing with your GTD, Lars? And or at the other end of the scale, you can be coached by a certified coach and ask this coach, can you follow me up over some time? I have my system now is that I will never agree to anything less than a year. So it doesn't mean that we will talk every day in a year, but I will keep you accountable for a year. So with an email follow-up, and I think that helps you build your GTD habits over time. Any comments, Lars? Do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, no, just adding the on deep diving into it. I think that's really necessary for some people, especially as you progress with GTD. So let's say you got really good at the 5 steps, but and now diving more into the higher horizons. Well, for many people, making it all work is really a necessary step to actually go through and read that to get much more of a grasp on this. Or of course, join us in a level 2, level 3 training or coaching. So no, that's essential. I think when you get up and running to a certain extent and you're on cruise control with maybe a bigger part of GTD, I think the Ready for Anything book is absolutely helpful. And just random, it's just fun how to, when you pick it up and you read one chapter and it's 2 or 3 pages, takes you no time almost, and there's just some kind of that maybe I need to tweak that a bit. So that's kind of like a good inspiration. Or you need to help someone that's really overwhelmed, well then go back and find the workbook or find the GTD for Teens book, or is struggling with something in your team, then of course the team book. So just to remind everyone that there's a lot out there. A lot of people mainly focus on the big book, the Getting Things Done book, which makes sense, but there's a lot more to gain in going through those other books. So I would certainly support that. The other thing for me to add was just so what do you want to become better at, and then use that weekly review as a reflection point, and evaluate how the previous week went and what you want to focus on next week. At least that is something that has worked really well for me, that it's been sort of built in. I've had a section in my custom weekly review checklist where it just said habits to implement. And so I would list the habits that I wanted to have implemented at that point in time, and just reflect on that in my weekly review, and then adjust it going forward, see if there were anything new I wanted to add. And it was just, that was a great way for me to do it. And of course, the last thing with the, I have to mention AI. I think I don't know why this sort of become a thing. But I don't remember if I mentioned it last time, but I'll happily repeat myself. So it is developing a bit on its own. And at one point, very recently, it surfaced how long the average age on my home list was. So how long had those next actions been sitting on my home list? Yes, that was my response as well. I still don't know if my wife has hacked the system. That may be the solution. That she found a way. she found her way in, and just let's surface this for Lars. Let's see if that helps. No, but it's interesting information, and just got me to check some things off as well. So different information can sometimes trigger some of this as well.
Yes, it can. Just to sum up this episode, I think that at least I'm at the end of what I can contribute to this. But to sum this up, is that you can get better at getting things done every day if you give yourself time and think long term. And learning over time and staying accountable is a good idea. So if you have someone to be accountable with. And the idea is also, at least from my side, is that when you do GTD, it will make you feel better about who you are and what you do and what you're not doing. Because when you empty your head, you feel, at least it did for me when I started, and it still does. If I have things ruminating, sometimes things don't get out at the right time. It's kind of revisiting this thing. That still happens, but when I get it out, it feels good, and it is a state that I would like to stay in, because it feels great. And then if you then don't clarify it, it will not feel great. So you have to then establish clarifying, and then if you don't do it good, you will have to clarify again, and then you have to learn how to do this. It takes time. Give yourself time, but a little better every day, a little more focused every day, a little bit better. And when you do the clarify, you understand how to do it, and you see the results when you engage in the things that you need to do. You feel good. And when you do your weekly review, it's like a weight off your shoulders. So all of these things, that's the really fantastic thing about getting things done. That it makes you feel good. It's self-reinforcement. Yeah, well, if imagine if this was just uphill, then it will be just pure willpower. But it isn't for us, at least not for me. I feel relieved when I do my GTD. I feel good about who I am and what I'm doing and what I'm not doing when I'm doing my GTD. And I think that is the secret fuel of getting things done, is your inner motivation, because it feels good. Do you agree, Lars?
Yeah, no, that's a great way to phrase it. Absolutely. That momentum that also shows up. Now, the last thing I wanted to throw in there also for the it could be for everyone, but perhaps for the more advanced GTDers listening, when we talk about the crucial influence training that we also deliver on lasting behavior change, really good book, highly recommended. But when we talk about one of the 6 sources being personal ability, we talk a lot about the deliberate practice by Anders Ericsson, the psychologist, that you have some, that you don't train to become better at chess, right? You become better at, playing the end game when you have a rook versus a bishop. Like that, you really like focus in on these. And I think that's probably a good tip as well for people out there to not go too broad. Again, we want to inspire people, we want them to know what's out there. So that broad knowledge thing that we just spoke about absolutely still makes sense, but perhaps making sure that you're really clear on what you focus on, that you have these specific narrow goals that you can really put some effort into, that you get feedback on, and that they, stretch you a bit, that it's not too easy to do. It's beyond the scope of this episode to go into, but I think for some of the listeners out there, it may be worthwhile to investigate a bit more about this deliberate practice theory or principle.
Yeah, I do agree. We always, when we try to make an episode, we think about, will we be able to fill this with what we need to talk about? Now we are on 10 minutes over time for what our target is, but hey, we are here. So, but I think we are at the end. Lars, do you agree? And if so, can you take us out?
Let's say we are at the end. I think we are at the end on my list as well, and that is when we mentioned the GTD summer camp. Because as Morten already mentioned, that's a great place to come for finding some inspiration or some accountability. As you mentioned, Morten, it's something. It's part of the whole process that we try to match people up by the end. For those who do want an accountability partner or weekly review buddy, whatever we want to call it, however you want that relationship to be. It's a great place to come. We meet in Denmark every year. Right now it's sold out, so there's a waiting list. But if you are thinking of joining, be sure to go in there and jump on that waiting list. I think you can just send me an email, lars@VitalLearning.eu, and then we'll add you to that waiting list and let you know if we can open up some more spots. But yeah, I think that's where we are with the summer camp right now. We've always been close to this sort of limit where we wanted to be, and we reached that limit already in April this year. So a lot of people coming back, really looking forward to it. The nicest people, greatest people coming from all over the world, really looking forward to it. And David will be there, his wife Catherine will be there, Morten will be there, I will be there. Everyone will be there, I think, right, Morten?
Yeah, and I think your grandmother is coming as well. I'm of course
the other reminder. Let's see. The other reminder is for you to head on over to VitalLearning.eu and have a look around, because that is where you'll learn more about all of the things that we do. You can get in touch with Morten, with myself, with any of the other countries that are operating under the Vital Learning umbrella, countries in the Nordics, plus about GTD, about the other offerings, Crucial Influence, Crucial Conversations, and more. If you are outside the Nordics, head on over to gettingthingsdone.com to find your local partners. And I think we also like to remind people about the GTD Masterclass Retreat now as part of the outro, right, Morten?
Yes, we do. And the Masterclass Retreat is an exclusive event. It's 2 times a year. And the next one is in September 2026, in the beginning of September. It's going to be in Holkenholm Castle, an Israel castle in Denmark, We're 12 like or more or less like-minded individuals who wants to get good at getting things done, and specifically the higher horizons. We'll meet with Lars, David, Catherine, and myself for 3 days, or 2 o'clock one day, full one day, and then 2 o'clock ended. So I don't know if that's 3 days, but at least 2 full days of reflection.
It's over 3 days, but 2 half days, half day at the start, half day at the end. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. Thank you. But it is a really good place to come and meet other people who are interested in understanding why you're on the planet, what you need to do, what's my values, where do I want to go. And there is it's coaching one-on-one, and there is group coaching, and there is reflection together with the other people. And all the people that's been there are coming back full of inspiration and a systematic approach on how to make sure that this is not just a fluff thing that they were part of. So, and yeah, it is great. I hope to see you there. You can find the link in the show notes, GTD Masterclass Retreat, where you can signal your interest by apply for this. And we still do have some free seats for September, but I'm sure that they will be easily taken fast. They normally are. So, and there is another one in Norway in 2027. If you want to show interest for that, that's also a possibility. But that's Masterclass Retreat. And are we at the end now, Lars? End? Or do we have something else?
I think so.
Yeah. Then I will do as I always do, is saying until next time, stay safe and stay productive. Bye-bye.
Bye, Ron.